So I've always been an artist and a scientist, and for me, I've never seen the schism. What I do is I computer model the cognitive. So that's how we perceive, how we move, how we express, and literally how we are creative. So by computer modeling, we're making an art software parameterized space, and then using artificial intelligence, we could move through that space. So not a pixel or polygon space, but some higher level notion of, in this case, faces and emotion and art depiction. But I'll show you kind of this, a practical situation, which is working with scientists to understand everything about whales and make a whale space. And in that way, with the Vancouver Aquarium, we're able to do experiential learning. But the great things about software art systems is they could be used for anything. So once you have whaleness, you could dance whales or use a cello with the whales. So software art, I've been doing it for a while. So back in 1988, Rebecca Allen and I, noticed my hair back then, we used the software system to bring craft work into the virtual. But with software art, it gets used in so many different ways. So it was repurposed with Nam June Paik and the Whitney Show, and the work we did all the way back in 1988 is now seen in 2013 with Craftwork at the MoMA. So by the way, that's my 30 years later at the MoMA story on costume design. I'm amazed by the frailty of emotion, and I use face systems. I talk through them, I depict them in all kinds of ways. Here's an example of that. So this is an AI system that's extracting emotion from a string quartet and driving this face. So it closes his eyes because an angelic sound just happened, and it's happy, and it might, as it goes to a minor key, change that style. So we have a number of these systems that we can use in kind of different ways. I use evolutionary programming a lot. I worked with Will Wright on The Sims to grow these faces, but I've done it more significantly and recently in artwork and try and make a computer be creative on its own. So in that case, I used evolutionary programming and this knowledge of how humans are creative and used the spark of this Darwin portraiture. And this work was done for 30 days, and the work now on its own, no one hand painted anything, is seen all over the world in over 10 shows. Here it was at Cambridge. This is the MIT gallery, and you can see it has these epochs of different creatives' ebbs and flows, and it's generally perceived as an artwork on its own, although it was completely done by a creative algorithm. Every piece in the show is living. It's living genes. So you could marry any of them together and get new work. So in some of we have a new piece called Swimming Away from Darwin, where people take the traditional work that they see on the wall and afterwards can recombine it in different ways to make their own artwork. With my PhD students, we've taken this system and tried to make it more flexible for designers and others. Why be able to just have to look at futurism? Why can't you just move through futuristic work, hopefully in the style that they were doing? So we're doing new work with that in Picasso, and we're using this technique in hospital stress rooms, because when you create, you relax. The last piece I'm going to show you is I've interviewed thousands of artists and thousands of people about creativity, and I try to teach a computer to be creative on its own. In this case, learning the style of Rembrandt, but not just mimicking it, but in fact using kind of the deep knowledge that artists use cognitively. Now now we have a scripting language that you can move through this open source system any way you want. And from an academic standpoint, we tried to show the magic that Rembrandt was a bit of a cognitive scientist, because with an eye tracker, we showed how you could draw the eye anywhere in his pieces. So it is this notion, this bringing the cognitive into systems, and this magic that happens between an artist and their work, and trying to understand and model that cognitive experience. And with that, there's this shared meaning that goes back and forth. 300 years later, you're feeling what Rembrandt was thinking when he did his work, and we're interested in that, in putting that in software systems. So all these are open source. So besides me, why don't you use them and dance and sing and emote through these systems? Thanks very much.